Alright, alright. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to more political chatter. So today we will be doing something a little bit different. We will be doing a bracket fight with all the U.S. presidents. So this will get very interesting as we move on. So it's kind of like a tier list. We will find out my favorite president. Hey, I'm honestly not even sure who it is, so this will help decide. And I'll just be talking about each little bracket matchup, and then whoever I think is better moves on. They play the other winner, moves on, so you get the idea. So let's go. Let's do this. So our first matchup is, I don't know if you guys can really see that good, but yeah, there we go. I'll zoom in. So it's John Quincy Adams versus Barack Obama. So, Barack Obama was a two-term president. He was the average of his popularity was above water. It was underwater for a little bit. But he did promise to get us out of Iraq, and he did not do that. Trump did not. Trump promised the same thing. He didn't get it done either. It was Biden who did it. So that is definitely a negative about him. That's something that I hold against him a lot. And Obamacare did not even work that good. It was good, good meaning, but it did not get much done. And but John Quincy Adams, his presidency just favored, the rich and wealthy. He did not do anything for the frontiersman, for the common man. He became president under a corrupt bargain. So I will give this to Barack Obama. I do not think that John Adams legitimately was the legitimate president of the United States. He made a corrupt bargain with Henry Clay. That's a fact. So I'm going with Obama on that one. So our next one is Harry Truman versus James Polk. I generally do not like both of these people. However, I do get where they come from. I just like Harry Truman because if I was president, I would not have dropped the atomic bomb. I would have kept on fighting, because I never think under any circumstances that you should kill people of another country, that you should kill innocent civilians of another country. I think that you should keep fighting with soldiers who are willingly going into the military, with the known risk of getting killed. You should never kill civilians. I hold that against him so much. However, James Polk strongly believed in manifest destiny, and he killed at least tens of thousands of Native Americans himself in the Western frontier. But James Polk, he did complete all of his campaign promises, and he was extremely popular for his time. He really got the support of the people. Truman did not, and Truman, he wasn't like he did anything that great for civil rights. He didn't do anything great for the New Deal. I'm going to give this one to Polk. I think that Polk is better than Truman. So next matchup is Bill Clinton versus James Garfield. This one is very tough because I really like both of them. So obviously, I've said many times on my channel that policy-wise, just on terms of policy, Bill Clinton was the greatest president we've ever had. However, there was a scandal, and he lied to everyone by saying, he didn't have you know, but James Garfield I really like because he wanted to defeat the spoils system. He wanted an honest government. However, he was assassinated very early into his presidency, and I gotta subtract points from that. Bill Clinton also passed gun laws, which I really like, and he remained popular. That's the thing. Even so, I will give this one to Bill Clinton. I do think that he was better than James Garfield. Next one is Eisenhower versus Hoover. So Hoover was a failed president. The stock market crashed under his presidency, and he couldn't get us out of it, while Eisenhower was an amazingly popular president. One of my personal favorites. He used to be my number one. Easy Eisenhower win right here. So next is Washington versus Wilson, and Wilson was a complete racist. He aired Birth of a Nation, which praised the KKK. He aired it at the White House. He did a showing ceremony. Washington was the first president. Greatest leadership we've ever had by a U.S. president. I will definitely say that he handled the whiskey tax rebellion, I believe, fairly well, and I will give that to Washington. So next is Reagan versus Cleveland. I believe that Reagan is a bit overrated. But Cleveland was not that great all himself. I mean, he didn't. His first term was pretty great, but when it came to his second term, his second non-consecutive term, it really fell down. There was the Pullman strike, where trains raised their prices for their passengers, and people actually started rioting. It got bad enough to the point where Cleveland had to send in the National Guard, and I believe that was the wrong move because then people really got mad. There was so much retaliation, basically a battle between the National Guard and the people who wanted to ride these trains for just a simple price. But I mean, then Reagan did not benefit the bottom half of the United States at all. The financially bottom half, when we're thinking about it, when we are thinking about the slums in the cities in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Boston, he did nothing for those folks. And I mean, especially the war on drugs, that was awful. It was totally racist, the system that was going on because of the war on drugs. Police did not help a thing. This one's tough. I got to give it to Reagan though, because Cleveland just did not handle the country very well. Next is Martin Van Buren, Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was one of my favorite presidents. Of course, I'm going to give it to him. I don't think we have to say much about this one. Martin Van Buren, he was president during the Trail of Tears. He did not sign the Indian Removal Act, but he was president during the actual Trail of Tears. He helped kill tens of thousands of Native Americans. So sad what happened to these people for no reason, and it's because of people like Martin Van Buren. I could never let him move on against Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was the first progressive president we've had. He actually cared about nature. He was intelligent enough even in the early 1900s to realize that we needed this nature. We needed to preserve nature, and we were not doing that. So huge props. Why is Hoover on here twice? Oh my god, Anne Garfield is on here twice. I think that some people are on here twice because there's not. Wait, is everyone? Oh my god, everyone is on here twice. What the heck? This is all messed up. Okay. Because there's so many other people. Alright, anyway. Yeah, they just have to do that because there's like an uneven amount for everyone. So, but that's fine. Alright, so next we've got Hoover versus W. This one's pretty tough. I dislike both. But I mean, I really think that W had good intentions. That Bush had good intentions. Especially looking back now, I like him looking back now. I really think that he feels sorry for what he did. But he should have never sent forces into Iraq. That was the worst presidential decision in the history of the United States. I'm going to give this one to Hoover. Next, we have William Henry Harrison versus Millard Fillmore. Fillmore wasn't great, but Harrison died the first month in office, so I have to give it to Fillmore. Next, we have Garfield versus Andrew Johnson. Garfield would have been a great president, as I was talking about earlier. Andrew Johnson literally said the government should be full of white men. So I'm going to give this one to Garfield, easily. Next, we have Pierce versus Carter. Easily Carter. Pierce signed the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which allowed people of Kansas and Nebraska to hold a referendum to decide whether or not they should have slavery, and people from Missouri came in and messed up the entire vote in favor of the yes to slavery vote. So that was awful, and it caused a bunch of violence. You should have saw that coming, honestly. And Carter wasn't all that great, but hey, at least he didn't do that, and he was a very nice guy. Next, we have Fillmore versus Madison. I'll give this one to Madison because he was the fourth president, and he was the father of the Constitution, and he really knew his stuff about the U.S. government, and he seems pretty smart. Next, we have Taft versus McKinley. I really like McKinley, and I really hate Taft. Taft was a failed president, and McKinley was very solid, especially on terms of foreign policy. He was great. We acquired the Philippines, Cuba, Guam, all under his presidency. He beat a war with Spain, and he granted Cuba independence. I'm going to give this one to McKinley. Next, we have W. Bush versus Andrew Johnson. I mean, again, both are awful, but I don't know. I'm not going to talk about My brain is hurting for that one. That one's tough. Alright, next we have H.W. Bush versus Martin Van Buren. I'll give this one to H.W. He might not have been the great president in terms of economy, but he was much better in terms of Van Buren, as he actually cared about human life. And he was actually pretty good with the environment, believe it or not. He took steps to preserve the environment. He was pretty progressive on that. Other than that, not a great president. Next we have Wilson versus Polk. Easily Polk. No question, Wilson was a racist, as I was just talking about. Alright, so we're done with that side. Now let's do this side. Alright. Let's go. So we have Roosevelt versus Harding. Harding was the most corrupt president we've ever had, so that one is easily Roosevelt. I talked about Roosevelt before. Next we have Jackson versus Nixon. I do know one thing. Jackson is my least favorite president in American history. Nixon was not great either. He broke into the Watergate building. He was extremely corrupt. But he did create Earth Day, and the economy stayed very solid around his term. However, he did start the war on drugs, but still, Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act. So racist. He was the worst we've ever had. No care for humanity at all. Next, we have Coolidge versus John Tyler. John Tyler didn't get a thing done. Coolidge was a conservative. He was great. He was supposedly good with the economy until the stock market crashed a little bit into Hoover's term, which I do think was largely due to Coolidge. But he really kept the country in check. He made the country very respected around the world, and he was an extremely popular president. I really like him personally. Next, we have Chester Arthur versus Benjamin Harrison. Both did absolutely nothing. I'll give it to Harrison because I feel that Harrison was a bit less traditionally conservative than Chester Arthur was. Next we have JFK versus Coolidge. I like Coolidge, but I gotta give it to JFK. And this one, I'm a big JFK fan, and I really think that he deserves it, even over Coolidge, especially because of the whole stock market crash with Coolidge. Next we have Hayes versus Jefferson. Hayes was a very honest man. He did not have slaves, unlike Jefferson, and he didn't, do that with his anyway, never mind. Don't know what I'm talking about. But Hayes was very honest, and however he did sign the Chinese Immigration Act. I gotta give it to Jefferson. Actually, I mean both were probably racist. Everyone was racist. But next we have Zachary Taylor versus John Adams. I'm a big John Adams guy. Zachary Taylor lived for so short that I almost have to give it to John Adams. Next we have Gerald Ford versus Grover Cleveland. I'm going to give this one to Gerald Ford because we were just out of Watergate and people had no trust in the Republican Party. But Ford made people trust him, and he was so close to winning in 1976, which seemed impossible when Watergate happened. No one was voting Republican, and Ford totally changed that. And with no other Republican could have done that besides Ford. He was able to really unite the country. Next we have LBJ versus Grant. I dislike both, but Grant's administration was really corrupt. But he himself, I really don't think was very corrupt. I just think it was his administration members, his cabinet members. LBJ, I mean he should not have escalated Vietnam so much that it lasted into 1975. Terrible mistake by him. Next we have FDR versus John Tyler. FDR was one of the greatest presidents we've ever had. Certainly, on economic policy, FDR was the best. I don't know how anyone could say that the New Deal wasn't amazing. Ben Shapiro put him in F on his tier list. That's just being total bias because he was liberal. He was a great president. He easily beats John Tyler. Next, we have Zachary Taylor versus Trump, and when we're looking at it, Zachary Taylor did much less damage to the country than Trump did if we're looking overall, like to today. I'm going to give this one to Zachary Taylor, however, it is very narrow. Next, we have James Buchanan versus Warren Harding. I'm going to give this one to James Buchanan. Warren Harding, he made people lose trust in the government, which is one big thing that Coolidge was able to get back in the people, and that was a huge mistake. He was so corrupt, and James Buchanan really had a good heart. He would actually buy slaves and free them. He did not own slaves. He was not a good president, but he was a good person, I believe. Wow, next we have two dough-faced presidents, James Buchanan versus Franklin Pierce. Franklin Pierce was slightly better. He was less dough-facey. He actually did at least a little bit. Plus, he was younger, which I like. He will win. Next, we have Taft versus Harrison. Taft was a failed president. I'm giving this one to Harrison. He started the income tax. I'm actually very anti-income tax. I might seem a bit liberal in this video, but my views are insane, and I am strongly against the income tax. I think it should be abolished immediately. And I will give this one. The income tax was a terrible mistake in my mind, and I'm just basing this off of how bad I believe Taft was. Next, we have FDR versus James Monroe. I really like James Monroe personally, but I will give this one to FDR because of the reasons I said before. Next, we have Abe Lincoln versus McKinley. I know you guys know who I'm going to say. Of course, I'm saying Abe Lincoln. Alright, so we're done with the first round, guys. We have all these people moving on. And alright, so let's start in round 2, shall we? So first we have Obama versus Polk. So I'm gonna move Obama on. Polk, I dislike how strongly he believed in manifest destiny, as I was talking about earlier. And I think that manifest destiny was a bad idea, saying that Native Americans had been on this land for who knows how long, since the start of the existence of Earth. And Polk and his men just came in and swept them out. I'm going to give this one to Obama. Next, we have Bill Clinton versus Eisenhower. Again, Eisenhower is one of my favorite presidents of all time. He is definitely moving on. He just kept the country so solid that I have to give it to him. Especially with Bill Clinton's scandal. I would if the scandal didn't happen. I'd let him win, but with the scandal, I can't. He lied to everyone. Next, we have Reagan versus Washington. Definitely Washington moves on. I talked about all the issues with Reagan before. Washington, I think he is overrated, but that doesn't mean I don't like him. I think he was a good president, and he kept the American people very united, which is always very good thing in my mind. So next we have Hoover versus Teddy Roosevelt. You guys know who's moving on. Teddy Roosevelt is definitely moving on. Next we have Fillmore versus James Garfield. I am moving James Garfield on 100%. Again, he would have been one of the best presidents we've ever had, in my opinion. He would have been just amazing. He was so honest. He would have, the American people would have loved him, frankly. Next, we have Jimmy Carter versus James Madison. This one's pretty tough. I'm not a huge fan of both, but I will go with Jimmy Carter. He did care for the environment very much, which is also something major to me. He saw that was an issue, but massive inflation under him. I'm going to change it actually to James Madison. I'm sorry. And next we have McKinley is definitely moving on. He was such a solid president. I would have preferred the gold standard like William Jennings Bryan thought, but whatever. Gotta do what you gotta do. Next we have H.W. Bush versus Polk. I'm moving H.W. Bush on. He was a fairly liberal Republican, and politically I am with liberal Republicans like Charlie Baker, Phil Scott, Larry Hogan, just people of today's nature. So I will go with George H.W. Bush. And that's it for this side. Let's go to the other side. So we have Lincoln versus, wow, look at this. Lincoln versus FDR. Well, no, actually, let me go to the top, because FDR is on here twice. He moved on twice. Alright, so we have Teddy Roosevelt versus Nixon. Obviously, Teddy Roosevelt is moving on, no question about it. So Teddy is on here twice. He's moving up. He might be our be in the end. Next we have, whoa, sorry, I went up so far. Next we have Coolidge versus Harrison. Harrison didn't do a thing. So Coolidge is definitely moving on. Next we have Jefferson versus JFK. JFK is definitely moving on. Jefferson owned way too many slaves. Next we have John Adams versus Gerald Ford. This one's kind of tough. But then again, John Adams, I was talking about how non-racist he was, but I didn't. But yeah, he was like very anti-slavery and all that, and that's really cool. But then again, he signed the Alien and Sedition Acts, which like allowed him to deport people back to their own countries, and it was a pretty racist move. Plus, he took away freedom of speech because he said that he could imprison people who went against his beliefs. So I'm going Ford. Next we have Grant versus FDR. I'm going FDR on this one. Grant didn't do much. He was just a good Civil War general. Next we have Buchanan versus Taylor. Taylor is somehow still in. I'm giving it to Taylor. Next we have Pierce versus Harrison. I gotta go Harrison just because he was a little more, not. He's after the Civil War, okay, so there weren't any issues in terms of race. Next, we have FDR versus Lincoln. This one is going to be such a deciding factor. But I'm going Lincoln because Lincoln really had the guts in 1860, and very few people had the guts to go out and openly be very anti-slavery, even to the South, even after the South concedes, not back down to them and allow slavery, fight them. So he was really strong in that sense, and I mean he's signing the Emancipation Proclamation. He was great. I love Lincoln. So yeah, so Lincoln does move on. All right, so now the third round is. Oh wait, yeah, we're on to the third round, everyone. All right, so in the third round we have Eisenhower versus Obama. Eisenhower definitely moves on. Again, one of my favorite presidents. Just much better than Obama in terms of the economy, especially on the Little Rock High or the Little Rock Nine. That was definitely a good move, sending in the National Guard to protect them. So now we have Washington versus Teddy Roosevelt. I'm definitely having Teddy Roosevelt move on. Great guy, great president. Next we have Garfield versus Madison. Garfield moving on. Again, he was somehow able to eliminate the spoils system while being in office for 6 months. That takes some. He was able to do it. All right, that's all I'm saying. Now we have McKinley versus H.W. This one's kind of tough. Not sure how either of these people are in this little corner. Must be awful. I am going McKinley because he was an okay president, and this is some important. People really liked him in his time. He was extremely popular. H.W. was not at all. He was underwater in terms of approval. All right, so next we have. Let's see. We have Teddy Roosevelt versus Coolidge. I'm going Teddy Roosevelt on this one. Oh my god, both Teddys moved on, I think. Oh my god, they're going to be too hard to beat in the end. Too bad there's two. I should honestly make I'm going to make Coolidge move on. Even though I do like Roosevelt better, I'm making him move on because of that. Alright, so next we have JFK versus Ford. JFK is definitely moving on. He was a much better president. He got so much done, like the Peace Corps and all that, in just a 3-year term. He did great. He was young, and people really started to like, even young people started to like politics after that. Alright, so next we have FDR versus Zachary Taylor. Definitely moving FDR on Zachary. I don't know how Zachary Taylor got this far. Don't need to explain that one, I feel. Benjamin Harrison versus Lincoln, we definitely don't need to explain that one. Lincoln is moving on. Alright, so now we are on to the fourth round, I think. Oh, wait. Yeah, fourth round. So we have Eisenhower versus Teddy Roosevelt. This one's tough, but I'm gonna. I don't know. Because Teddy Roosevelt, what I don't like is that he's so proud to conserve nature, and then he goes into Africa and shoots a bunch of animals, like thousands of animals he killed, including elephants, giraffes, just beautiful animals. But I don't know, Eisenhower, he did do a lot with mixing church and state when we're really looking at it. I'm going to give this one to Teddy Roosevelt. However, Eisenhower used to be my number one president. Just keep that in mind. Alright, next we have Garfield and McKinley. Garfield is definitely moving on. Don't ask me how McKinley got this far. Garfield was a great president. Alright, oh, come on. Oh, never mind, nothing happened. Alright, anyway. So on this side, we just have Teddy and Garfield back. Okay, so on this side, we have Coolidge and JFK. JFK is moving on. We were supposed to be Roosevelt. I didn't want to have Roosevelt in twice, Teddy, so here is JFK. He easily beats Coolidge for, clear reasons. Next, we have FDR versus Lincoln once again. So, I already talked about this matchup, and Lincoln wins. So I'm going to go down to Lincoln. So we have our final four. We have Teddy Roosevelt. We have James Garfield, shockingly. We have John F. Kennedy, and we have Abe Lincoln, four great presidents. So the first matchup is between Teddy Roosevelt and James Garfield. James Garfield only was in office for 6 months. For that, I have to give it to Teddy. He filled in McKinley's term for like 4 years, and then he was reelected on top of that. He would have easily won re-election in 1908, and here's how popular he is. He runs in 1912 from the third party and wins second place, from the Progressive Party. That must show that he is popular. I gotta give it to him over Garfield. Over here we have JFK and Lincoln. So I will give this to Lincoln because JFK definitely was. Listen, this is important. JFK was definitely president under easier circumstances. It was not a time when half the country was leaving, and you had to fight a war. Of course, being president is hard. Being president at any time is hard, but Lincoln had it extra hard. All right, he was president during the U.S. Civil War. I gotta give it to him. So our finalists: Lincoln versus Roosevelt, and for the same reason that I was just talking about JFK, I'm gonna give it to Lincoln. Gonna give it to him. He was a great president. He really was. So the bracket fights are over, and Lincoln is the victor. Wow, this was kind of fun. Not really. I mean, thought it would be more fun. I was really looking forward to this. Wasn't that fun? Should have just made a tier list. No, tier lists take too long. Anyway, thank you all for watching this video. I guess Lincoln is my favorite president, but thanks for listening to my political chatter. I'll see you all probably tomorrow, maybe the day after that. But thank you all for really enjoying my newest election night. It's blowing up. Has like 400 views in 24 hours. Super excited. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. I'll see you all probably tomorrow.